Hello, welcome to Rabbit Holes with Aaron. I'm Aaron. I was a 20-year Marine Corps veteran, retired, and now I'm on the road and hi from Utah. I'm recording today in Utah. We're moving to Wyoming next, and we're going on a long 6-month journey. But with me today, I have Nizam, a childhood friend, and it doesn't matter how far we are apart or how long we're apart. When we come back together, we just click again. And I've always enjoyed that. So say hi, Nizam.
Hey, Aaron. Or hi, Nizam.
Or that. Yeah, okay. That's a whole thing too. But
So, man, it's great seeing you and chatting with you again. And just like you said, you were my backyard neighbor with the trampoline. So that was always best fun, man. Going and jumping on your trampoline with you and your brothers. That was one of the huge highlights of my growing up. So a lot of fun.
awesome. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay. I mean, I knew we hung out. What I thought we did mostly was like shoot birds with BB guns. But
I mean, that did that all growing up, but you with the trampoline, you were the only one that had a trampoline. That was that cool.
it was cool to live that close to you too.
Yeah, just jump the back fence. You were right there. That was perfect. And so I guess a little more intro on me. So after you graduated before me, 1 year before me, and went into the Marine Corps, I finished out high school and went to college, went to UT, got a computer science degree, then worked at IBM for about a decade as a software architect, did a bunch of patent works, have several patents from IBM, and then went on and tried to do my own stuff for a little bit. None of it really panned out. I actually made car computers and tried selling those, but it was a little too early for that at the time. And then I ended up working at Intel. That was my last long job. That was super fun. Yeah, doing the 360 videos at NFL games and NBA games. I mean, some of the highlights. I've been to, probably 12 different NFL stadiums. I think about 16 NBA stadiums. I've met NBC, ESPN, TNT, all the producers from the major networks at some
Wow.
point that do sports. So that was interesting. A whole lot of fun, to create something that's watched by millions of people, during a live game. So that was super
Yeah.
fun. And now I'm, trying to be an entrepreneur and, again, starting my own business again. And at this point, I think I'd mentioned I'm about 22 months in on the actual product itself. We started the company last summer, so that's when I kind of figured I had a product that I'm ready to sell, or I know I'd be able to sell, and
Sure.
then go, yeah. So that's been a fun journey. It's been a very frustrating journey, but I think that's part of building a product that that's new and unique to the world. So a lightsaber pickleball paddle. I when AI came out, as soon as I was doing this, I'd ask AI, "Hey, show me what that is," and I had no idea. So even now, I type it in, it has no idea what that is. So it's kind of cool to create something that's new and unique.
Yeah.
Everyone that's tried it really likes it. So it's been fun. It took a month to make a prototype that was like, okay, this is a possibility. It's cool. And then it took a year to make it manufacturable. So just because you can produce one of something doesn't mean you can mass produce it, which I
Yeah.
learned. And so going down that path of basically designing components, redesigning components, testing components. So it was a year of learning how to manufacture it. And then starting in January, I started doing durability testing. And that's where I just take the paddle and go out and play as hard as I can and get other people to use it and play as hard as they can with it. And see what breaks. And there's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff that broke, and
Yeah.
we fixed it. I figured out how to get around all the different issues and problems I was having, and now we're ready to sell the paddle. And then again, again new to some of the process. Yeah, I'm very good at software, so I can write software. There's no problem writing software and getting the code to work for the lightsaber. There's a chip that's inside of it, so there's no problem with that. But then learning about supply chain, where you get your supplies from, can you get it reliably, how you
Yeah.
build the itself, what are the steps? Can I build more than one at a time? How much time is required for each piece? So that's been a challenge. It's been interesting to go through and sort all of it.
Yeah.
one of the challenges is, okay, this doesn't work, and how do you fix it? Really, I'm the only one that kind of knows this stuff. Khaleesi and Jessica, my wife and my daughter were big sounding boards for me, or at dinner, and they're like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, this is where I'm at. This part I'm stuck at. Do you have an idea?" And all that stuff would help. The thinking out of the box
Yeah.
of someone that has no idea what you're doing to then say, "Yeah, what about this?" And the biggest thing I learned so far in this entire experience was from Khaleesi, was from my daughter. I'm building stuff, and she's like, "Daddy, every time you build stuff, you do it the hard way first. You should just do the easy one and go from there." And I was like, I mean, she had me pegged,
Yeah.
100% pegged. And basically everything I tried to do, I was like, this is the coolest version. I'm an engineer, and I basically I over-engineered the product
Yeah.
and figured out really quickly that I need to make a usable product that's easy to manufacture at first, and then go from there.
Yeah.
That's I like that. Every time I run into a problem, it's like, all right, how can you make it easier? It's hard. That's the reason why you can't do it. Make it easier. And
Yeah.
that was the big thing, and it worked. That thought process was remove all the external stuff and just focus on what it needs to do and how it needs to work. Yeah, I would eventually find the solution.
Yeah. Making it easier. That's how when I teach people how to make stuff with pottery, I don't teach them how to make a coffee cup. I give them skills they can use to make it, but they're like, I want a coffee cup and I want it to look like Groot and I want it to do this and I want it to do that. I'm like, well, make it small first. Make it like a miniature version. And then you can make mistakes and then it can fall apart or whatever. So start really, really, really small. And it sounds like that's similar to what you're talking about. Like when you start with the simpler, easier to handle version, or that's what you're coming to.
Yeah, definitely. Probably the second most important was just kind of the way you were talking about it there is you're moving forward each time. So yeah, you start out small and then you get bigger and bigger, but the big thing is that you keep moving forward. And a lot of folks that I talk to, they're like, "Where are you at? You still working on this?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh, you're moving forward." I'm like, "Yes." So eventually, someone said that and I was like, that's really the biggest thing. It's like it doesn't matter what I'm doing, where I'm at with it, as long as I'm still moving forward with the product and the project, then I'm making progress.
Right. It's like I've heard a really interesting way I've heard it said is failing forward.
Well, I try to be a little bit more positive in the terminology, but yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
same thing.
Well, falling forward, failing forward. Yeah. But yeah, making forward progress. And you don't ultimately fail unless you just don't get back up one time. And we just keep getting back up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was huge. That was huge to just and there were times, I'd make seemingly no progress for like 2, sometimes even 3 weeks at a time,
Yeah.
and it was like, am I getting anywhere? I don't know how to get past this, and it's like I make a little increment, step, a little small change in the design. It's like, okay, you feel invigorated again. It's like, oh, I'm getting closer to
Yeah.
something. I don't know what I'm getting closer to, but I know I'm getting closer to what I'm looking for in
Yeah.
terms of the.
Yeah. So it's almost like you can get answers in the most unlikely places when you're stuck in that 2 week window of like, man, nothing. I haven't got any new changes yet. I'm still trying to figure out this problem or this difficulty. And your daughter gives you the idea. And I found that in my life too. Like relationships are so important and you have as many as you can because every single person brings a whole new way of seeing the world.
Oh yeah, I mean that was a big part of my moving the product along was taking it out and having other pickleball people use it. One of the
Oh yeah.
first designs or the last big design I had, the buttons were on the handle as opposed to the bottom of the handle. They were on the sides of the handle, and people were pushing the buttons while they were doing stuff. And for me, I was like, okay, why are you doing that? And it's like, oh, I don't have a two-handed backhand, but a lot of people do. And all of a sudden, I'm like,
Yeah.
that's an issue. They're using the paddle and they're turning it on and off because they're hitting buttons. I'm like, okay, I have to move those buttons. And I ask them, well, what do you think about the paddle, this and that? And, all that feedback, that real feedback from other people some of it was, like, okay, that's cool. Thank you for letting me hear that. And other people's like, tell me more, can you
Yeah.
describe that issue that you're having, or tell me how you think I could fix that, stuff like that. And that was a big part of it. It's like you get advice and there's certain people that give you advice. It's like, oh, they're tuned in on my answer. They can help me get there. And, you just focus on them a little bit more. And that helped a lot. So, yeah, all those relationships and knowing which ones to kind of pick at here and there for your answers or help you get closer to your answer definitely helps a lot.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, I love how streamlined and awesome looking your pickleball paddle looks. You showed it to me, and of course, I've been watching you play in your product testing phase, watching you play other people and seeing it. But yeah, it's cool, it's innovative, it's fun to use, and there's so many people are playing pickleball nowadays.
Yeah, one of the other fun parts of doing this was me, when I left Intel, or Intel, they closed down our group and laid off. There was 400 of us that worked on that particular product. And after that, it was okay. What are you going to do next? Work doing the job that I did on the 360 videos at the football stadiums, and I mean, I had a team of programmers that worked with me to build some of the back end things that happened, as well as working with the folks that were on site. It was so much fun. I mean, it's cool to have a job that it's just fun. Like you go to work and you're at a stadium. Everybody at that stadium is there to have a good time. Like no one's there to be angry. No one's there to be pissed off. They're just there to enjoy themselves. And that energy feeds, you're there and you get to feel and be part of that energy of, people having a good time and fun.
Yeah,
And this kind of was able to push me back into that area, which I kind of like right now. And that was neat to where I mean, one of the big things is you want to do something in life that you enjoy, that you have fun doing. And I enjoy sports. I'm not necessarily the best at it, but I mean, I can go out there and, hold my own. And so to be able to, go play pickleball, and that was work. I mean, quite literally, I went and live streamed this morning and that was work. Me using this cool paddle, was work. And
yeah,
that is just kind of, that's unheard of. You know what I mean? And for me to be able to do that is I don't know. Blessed is, I guess, is probably one of those words that works in that situation. To
sure.
work my way through that situation was definitely a leap of faith, a huge leap of faith. To go down a path and spend 2 years working on something that may or may not be. You know, and I'm at the point where it looks like it's going to be. That's been a
Yeah,
big part of the journey. Is like, am I over the hill yet where it's going to be? Or am I still climbing that hill? And I'm over that hill now. So I'm excited to know that I hit that point several months ago, which was very cool to know that I'm
yeah,
over that and having fun,
awesome.
having a lot of
Yeah.
fun doing
Oh yeah, that's an important part of my life as well. Like I'm not even sure if you're up to date on, well, you've probably been watching from afar on Facebook. Like I got into pottery workshops, I teach pottery workshops, I do beekeeping, and they're fun, and you get something out of them. And out of beekeeping, you get honey, which you can barter for other things. I've bartered for steak, I've bartered for, for coffee, and other things that you just normally go get from the grocery store. So yeah, and then the podcasting thing, it's just talking to people. A little bit of technology, a little bit of streamlined technology, and it's just talking to people and having a conversation. And that's just been a lot of fun. So yeah, seems like we're in a similar phase.
No, and I'm so excited that you're there. You didn't mention your swing dancing. I saw your swing dancing the other day. That was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, I couldn't get that down really well. I mean,
That's practice, but
yeah, rock and step was the hardest thing I think I've ever done in my life. I want to take another step and I want to just rock and step. But I don't know how much you know about it, but yeah, I didn't know anything about it. It was my first time to really do swing. But yeah, well, thanks for bringing that up. Thank you for watching my Facebook too. There's all kinds of interesting happenings on there.
yeah, man, you're always busy. You're always cool. It's fun to keep up with you that way.
Yeah,
And then
I have a problem sitting still. That's what I say.
I've got a fun experience coming up. So I'm going to be on a reality TV show, and we're going to be shooting it in August.
Wow.
So that's going to be exciting. So looking forward to that. It's
Well, tell
called
us the, go ahead.
it's called The Blocks, Blox, and it's on Prime Video. So it's a entrepreneur reality TV show. There's about 60 companies that are invited. They're all small startup, or I think it's less than $2 million is what they're making. So usually, you know, maybe one, two, maybe four or five employees at the most, usually in the companies that they have. The shooting is for a week, and it's all business training. So in the morning, you'll have training on, for example, how to do A/B testing with your ads. And then you break off into groups. You'll have the 60 companies. There'll be maybe six groups of 10, and then you powwow in the group about how you implement that process in your company. So then, how do you connect it to? Are you going to use Facebook? And what software are you going to be using? How do you? Basically, the goal is to learn how to automate everything in your business. So you
Hmm.
run the ad, maybe automatically changes the color, does another ad for you. How do you keep track of your metrics? What metrics are you looking for? So all that stuff you would learn. And then out of those, the best in the group is voted by one of the mentors in the group. Says, okay, this company sounds like they know what they're talking about. And then you get to present to everybody. And so
Hmm.
basically what you're going to see on the TV show is the top people in the groups presenting on how they would apply that topic. And then they're judges and they vote for the best company, best two or three for that day. And then there's, 6 episodes. So each day there's different training, different voting. And at the end of the week, they get a winner based on, who won the most points, and blah, blah, blah. But it's 24/7. So we'll get to,
Wow.
it's going to be in Tulsa. Khaleesi's actually going with me. She's going to be my plus one there. So she's going to sit in all the training with me, and she knows all
Wow.
for the company. So it'll be fun, and yeah. So you get to hang out with the big part of it is not just being there, but meeting the other entrepreneurs and the other mentors and judges, and building that relationship and getting feedback from people that are familiar with the things that I need to do moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, there's feedback and then there's good, thoughtful, considerate, helpful feedback.
Yeah, people that know the direction that I need to go from, a small company standpoint and, limited budget standpoint. I don't have, you know, millions of dollars to put at advertising and so forth. So I got to learn how to do a lot of that stuff myself. Thankfully, I'm very technically inclined, so I can make a lot of that happen on my own. So that's good. So that's the goal. The goal is to, go through, learn as much as I can, and then the idea with what they teach you is that you implement all of these things and you have a company that runs itself. So if you wanted to sell your company, it'd be, here's, you create your playbook on this is where you buy this is how this happens. I could just give that playbook to somebody and they could run the entire business for me. So that's where they try to get you to,
Yeah.
or, all the information to get to that point, which if you're running a business, that's where you want to get to, where everything I don't want to be typing in invoices, or running credit card processing or anything like that. Or building product, or talking to customers. I want all that to be automated. So, they kind of go through all the steps and processes to make that happen.
Yeah. You want to stick with the fun part.
Correct. 100%. I like innovating. So from this point, thinking about other products, maybe a lightsaber, a table tennis paddle, a ping pong paddle. And then the paddle that I have now, it's great. People want it to be lighter. They want it to be more inexpensive. They want the handle to be smaller, all these things. So I'm thinking about the next version of the paddle as well. One of the areas I want to get the paddle in, this one is built more for just a regular recreational person to use to go play pickleball. And the next version is going to be one where the battery's interchangeable. This one, you can swap the battery out if the battery gets old, but between games, it's not made for you to swap a battery out. But the battery will run for 4 hours. So if you're playing 4 hours of pickleball,
Yeah.
it might be done after that. So the next version, the battery will be, kind of hot swappable between games. So it's going to be smaller, but then, the primary business focus is going to be on pickleball facilities. So I'll go do a B2B, business to business interaction with the product versus business to consumer. So I'll change my focus to business going on with the next version of the paddle.
Okay.
Kind of interesting, because you know where you're at and then you know where you want to be, and you know, to it's just part of the process.
Yeah. As you're growing and pushing forward, right?
Yeah. And again, part of talking with I know several of the owners of pickleball facilities here in the DFW area, so kind of chatting with them and showing them the paddle, just kind of understanding what they're looking for, in terms of a product that they can use and want to use, that's you're going to have out to people that are just going to, beat up on it really, and that's what the product has to be solid enough so that someone can beat up on it and it's going to survive, and that's what's required to make it to a B2B type of sales scenario. The
Yeah,
B2C
you
will
had
still
go ahead.
the B2C will still happen, of course, but the primary focus will change.
Yeah, you got to make the pickleball handle for the angry guy that throws it. Like, oh. I mean, I don't know if pickleball makes people angry, but
More specifically, it's kids. So that I'm kind of focusing on in that area in terms of durability. The kids that have used the paddle so far, they play with it really well. It's 13 ounces, so it's heavier than a standard paddle. And for the way mechanics work in terms of swinging a paddle, with the extra weight, you have a lot of extra mass. So there's no need to swing hard. So with a lighter paddle, you have to swing harder to actually get the mass that you need to hit the ball. But with the heavier paddle, you can, for the most part, kind of block it back, and the ball goes
yeah,
really because you have all that mass hitting it. So for beginners and kids, this paddle actually works. They play better. Kids play better with this paddle as a beginner, and then they don't want to stop playing when they get the paddle as well. And that's been some of the feedback. That's been fun to have some parents come out there and they'll bring their kids to play. And sometimes I'll see the kids are just like bored and I don't want to play anymore, and they're on their phone. And so I'll go up to the parents. I was like, hey, do you guys mind testing this out for me? And all of a sudden the kids, their eyes will just light up and they're like, yeah, heck yeah, and they'll go out on the court. And I mean, I've had one kid that their parents had to pry the paddle from the kid's hand. It was like, he's selling it, buy it from him, I just want to take this home right now. Sorry, it's a demo paddle, we're not quite there yet, but it's cool to see that people enjoy using it and have fun with it.
yeah, yeah. It's all about the people, really.
And the other part is the adults, like you and I, we grew up in Star Wars age, when lightsabers and all that was in the movies and everybody looked at it and talked about it. And so, even people that are in their 50s, 60s, I'll give them the paddle and, they'll push the button and the lights come up and you just see their face light up like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I'm like, that's why I enjoy doing this, just to see, their face light up.
Yeah,
And it's like, cool.
yeah. I was surprised when you brought your beta model to my birthday party that the older guy that was hosting a cattle rancher, he was like, I knew instantly what that sound was, and he was super interested. You would think, he's out in the country, he raises cattle. You wouldn't think he'd be interested in a lightsaber, but he was the one that kept asking me about it. Like, yeah, what does it do? Where's it at? How did you make it? He was asking you about it as well during that time. But yeah, it has mass appeal for sure.
Yeah, like I said, it's kind of the hurry to get to the next version, and it always is, right? Like whenever you get something, like man, this is cool, but the next version is always just a little bit sleeker, better.
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna ask you, like, what's next when you finally get it off to manufacturing? Like, do you have another idea for what you want to invent? But it sounds like what you're saying is like that you're just gonna keep making it better in new versions.
So we're looking at, like I said, possibly doing a table tennis, a ping pong paddle,
Right.
and a
Yeah.
big part of going down that road is all the electronics are programmed and set in such a way. For example, most lightsabers only have one button, maybe two buttons, and I've made sure I've put three on this, so it's a lot more user friendly and easy for someone to use. And so using the same chip and buttons, I can put it in pretty much any device that I want to do. So just adding more and more product is going to be, on the list of things to do with with basically with the technology. Is what else can
Is
I
there,
add?
sure. Is there anywhere somebody can go and check the status and where they could eventually go like a website to maybe keep an eye on it and order it as soon as you finally do get, some ready?
Yeah, Saber Mashups, SaberMashups.com. So there'll be
Okay.
information on the site about it when it you know becomes available for sale. I also have Saber Mashups on a page on Facebook, so I'll definitely post there, so you can find it there. Saber Mashups on YouTube, on X, and on TikTok. I've been doing a lot of TikTok videos as well. I do live streams on Facebook and TikTok are the main places right now. And yeah, so you'll get to see that. That was a part of doing the live streams is me kind of ramping up the process of people seeing that it's not a novelty item. I mean, initially the
Right.
version I showed you, the beta version, would have been just a novelty item. It was built on a real paddle, very, very well made, good paddle. But because the handle was a little longer on the end there, it made it a little bit difficult to play. So this version, I made sure that it's a very playable paddle, and that's what I wanted to show with my live streams. Is like, here's me, spending 2 hours on the court and playing good players. I'm playing, uh, 4-0, 4-5 level players, and I'm, able to keep up with them with the paddle. And so that's been a big thing. I show it to people, that are pickleball players and that are new, and they're like, okay, that's cool. Can you do anything with it, And then you get on the court, and they're like, you want to talk and see more about the paddle afterward. They're like, okay, it's not just the cool looking paddle, you can actually hit the ball and do stuff with it, and then they have more questions. So it's been good to see, that side of it of, all right, yeah, whatever. Oh, that's really cool, tell me more.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna change gears. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
So you've always kind of been a voice of being in touch with your body. And I remember you relating stories to me about you go diving and you could maintain and keep your breath and you do a lot of breath work.
Hmm.
And that's something that like I would like to revisit that because I was kind of half listening back then, or where are you at with it now? And what does that look like for you now?
That's That's been entertaining as well. That's a huge growing process, but also an acceptance process of kind of the focus is it's easier to get into the places that I want to go, just kind of like on a high level. And the places I want to go are the places between the thoughts. So I still do a lot of focus on my breathing and I focus on the place between the thoughts. So I've been doing that for many, many, many years. That was one of the biggest, probably one of the most important pieces of my journey in terms of, physical and mental aspect. So hearing my body, if you focus on the place between the thoughts, then you can hear the other parts of your body, me, give me some ice, stretch this part out a little bit more. And so you kind of hear some of that. The other piece of focusing on your body is making sure that your body is happy while you're doing that. And that was very important. I learned that was a key to your body talking to you. So,
Right.
and for me, I focused on happy thoughts. So that was a big part of it. Like, like, oh, a cool birthday gift or, a good happy experience. I had a lot of fun car racing. So I'd, like, oh, this is what it was. This is what I felt like, when I was driving, my Corvette, on racetracks and stuff like that. That was just super fun. So you get your body feeling happy again
Yeah.
from that experience. And then the third big area was focusing on the energy that the body has. So if you want to look at it from a scientific standpoint, there's iron in your blood and your blood is pumped throughout your body. Well, that creates a small magnetic field. So I visualize that magnetic field and it's a toroidal field in the body. So those are the three things that I still do. And I do that every day. And anytime I'm like, all right, what do I do? Or, I need a break for a minute in terms of what I'm thinking or, and I need to clear. This is how I clear. So I focus on the place between the thoughts. Other thoughts will come up, and then I focus on happy thoughts to kind of push my thoughts in an area. And the goal with the thoughts is I bring up a happy thought and then I get rid of it. I want the feeling from the body. So that's the mind body part. And that's how I've managed the mind body part is you bring it up in the mind, you get rid of it, and you let the body, then you focus on the feeling that you got from that experience. Again, we're such, our brain processes so much that, again, I'll still start thinking about other things. And so I focus between the thoughts, the happy thoughts, and then I bring the energy focus into it. And I've learned that if I can do those three, and I can do all three of those at the same time. It takes a lot of practice to do that, but then I get to where I want to be. I get to hear my body. I get to all the, managing where, the next design is for, this piece. It all comes out of that area and that type of thought.
Yeah.
It's been key. I love it. I mean, I can't say anything, but it's the best thing in the world.
Wow. Yeah, and I think I'm on a similar path, but I understand it, of course, as everybody does in different terms. And I
Hmm.
wonder if I told you the way I think about thoughts and what I think you mean by the space between thoughts, and maybe you can tell me like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about, or I don't know, and we can maybe marry them up. But like I read in a book actually about visualizing your thoughts like leaves floating on a stream, and they come into sight for a little bit, and you could have some really troubling thoughts or maybe a memory or any, but they float along and you let them float along and then they move out of sight and you let them go. And it's kind of like you distance yourself from your thoughts. But I've been doing a lot of separating, deconstructing thoughts, you know or deconstructing like impulsive instant actions. So an example I use a lot is like being in traffic, and the traffic in a certain intersection, the middle lane was supposed to be able to go straight or turn left, but people were getting in the middle lane because, well, it's blocked off, so you can no longer go straight. So they get in the middle lane and they get ahead of all the other traffic and they pull in at the front. Normal Texas traffic, probably take everywhere traffic. Well, I would be upset. I'd be like, you're not getting in here. I got this big truck. I'm gonna have a gap of like a foot between me and a vehicle in front of me. And I took a moment and I said, why am I reacting that way? What's going on for me in that second? No, wait a minute, you're not going anywhere, because it like pops up for a fraction of a second, controls you, and then it's gone, right? At least that's what I experienced. And so it's like you grab it and you like hold it there and you take that thought or that impulse, at least this is what I do, and I'm like, why am I acting this way in this moment? Well, I don't like it that they're taking advantage of the system. Well, okay, well, they have their own consequences for taking advantage of the system. They're going to catch up to them at some point. I'm not responsible for their consequences. Why does it make me mad? Because I feel like I'm being left behind and because I feel like it's not fair. And like I took that little thought apart, and now it still pops up every once in a while, but for the most part, it's like, let me give them a little bit more space. Let me back up a little bit more, make a space for them. Because even if they mean to take advantage of the system, do I want to get in a wreck about it? No. Let their consequences happen somewhere down the road with the dump truck. I don't know. No, I don't want it to be bad for them. But, maybe they just realize it when they're thinking like me. But, it's taking each thought or taking reactions and pulling them apart and deconstructing them with this framework of what I'm talking about. So, when you were talking about the space between the thoughts, like, to me, it seems like that is the reality that we exist. Like just sitting in the reality that I exist, and that thoughts are just temporary things going by. Does that sound like that matches up in some way, or maybe what way is different, or what questions you have?
No, you're describing it the exact same way. The question is, when the thought comes by, how much time do you spend in the thought? And in some thoughts you do want to spend some time, but if I'm working on something that is, I know is going to require a lot of thought, then I just want to keep pushing the thoughts away. And I'm really focusing on that quiet space. And eventually a thought will come in, but I know that if I'm deep enough in that quiet space, that thought is really important if it's going to come to me. That's basically what I'm doing. I mean, the same thing you're talking about, but in that stream of thoughts, there's one of them that's going to come by that's going to be extremely important that you really need to listen to. And that's just my way of kind of quieting the other ones. So the real important one comes in. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm waiting for a thought. I mean, I'm sitting in that quiet, but I'm waiting for a thought, and I'm just waiting. And I know that the quieter I make it, the more significant that thought is going to be.
yeah. It's almost like a posture of listening Or that's what it sounds like to me. What do you think?
Oh, it is 100%. That's all I'm doing is I'm sitting there listening. I don't want to hear anything. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
But if you're
Yeah.
going to interrupt, yeah, I know it's going to be important.
Well, and I've noticed in this podcast that you've been really good about listening and not interrupting. So maybe that's where it comes from.
No, I like what you're saying, man. I mean, every time we've talked, we've always been on the same path and same thought process, but everyone describes it differently, and that's been a big part of it. I love hearing how other people describe it, and yeah, you learn a lot from that. I mean, I've taken away things from hearing somebody, even though their descriptions are total, like I would never describe it that way type of thing. I still learn, from them on how they describe it, and that's been a huge part of the listening experience is how people describe things. And I'm going to give you an example of one that's kind of stuck with me. My dad's a chiropractor growing up, and
Right.
I met a chiropractor here in Fort Worth, and it just so happens that his daughter and my daughter were in like a dance class together, and kind of became some family friends. And so one of the things, we were at another, friend's birthday party is probably what it was. And so we were chatting, and we were chatting about, you know, stuff the body goes through. And basically, the comment that he made was, very esoteric. He was like, the body has a lot of light. Through my practice, all I'm trying to do is remove the darkness from that light. The darkness is trying to creep into the light, and through my medical practice, I'm removing that darkness from people. And that stuck with me. I mean, it's been probably 5 years since he mentioned that, but that was the one thing that stuck with me is like, that's exactly right. I mean, it's an interesting way of describing it, a very esoteric and high level way of describing it, but I 100% agreed with them. And I thought that was
Right.
beautiful as a way of, talking about what you do.
Isn't it? It's interesting that even though we're using completely different words, we're talking about a similar thing, right?
I mean, I'm not even thinking similar. I think it's the exact same thing.
Okay. Well, there you go. Well, okay, then I agree with you. It's the exact same thing. But I mean, there's still so much in there, from our different experiences, from our different existences, from the way our makeup is and our DNA, that I can see something different and it might not completely overlap. But it does sound like the basics do line up, like you're talking about. So, yeah. Well, and I love, going back to listening for a second, like you're doing exactly, I talk about it all the time, but it's me talking to me or maybe on the podcast about listening, but you're exactly saying the things I love about listening. You can learn anything. You can learn a different perspective, which is priceless. You can, the longer you listen and the better you listen, and maybe you even reflect back or you summarize, you're going to learn more about that person and you're going to get some stuff that helps you on your journey too. And you're going to give some stuff that helps them on their journey.
Yeah, no, it's 100% correct. And then, of course, when you get more comfortable, you just kind of throw a wrench in it there and kind of see what they really think. So that's always, fun to do on, I think it's a simulation.
I remember that one. I do remember. I remember like somebody's playing a video game with my life and I'm just acting it out. Or yeah, it was a good thought process. I can follow you down. Well, like, yeah, we've
That's
got
turtles.
some rabbit hole knowledge. What's
Yeah.
that?
It's called Turtles All the Way Down. Oh, there's a great song about that, Turtles All the Way Down.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll send you the link for it.
No, I can just write it down. It's probably on Spotify.
Yeah, it is.
Any other like cutting edge discoveries when it comes to listening? Or maybe just let that one marinate for a second and take me back to what breathing techniques are like your daily. Like I know square breathing, I know like there was some fancy word for breathing all the way in, breathing all the way out, a certain amount of minutes. What's your go-to, or do you have different technique?
I've tried the counting on the breathing, and that was okay. I do more of a visualization for my
Okay.
breathing. So I visualize the oxygen coming into my nose, going into my lungs, and I visualize it going out to my body. And then I
Hmm.
visualize, all the stuff that I exhale going into my lungs and coming out. So instead of counting, I do a visualization for my breathing. I try to do a deep breathing as well in terms of engaging your core and your diaphragm. in terms of breathing deeply. I every now and then I will do a fast breath as well, just to get extra oxygen in the body. So I like that process as well. So I'll kind of go in between the two. I don't necessarily do as much visualization or breathing, oxygen visualization. I'll do the energy visualization when I'm doing something that's harder for me to visualize stuff coming in and out because it's happening so quickly on that breath. I'll just visualize because I know my heart is pumping a little faster, so I can visualize the energy that the iron is making in the blood going around the body. I can visualize that getting a little bit brighter and stronger. I also like to visualize the spin of the energy. In more of the esoteric terms, the body has a Merkaba, which is the toroidal spin of that energy that I was talking about. So when you go more on the esoteric side of that energy, you have a toroidal spin that's spinning at the speed of light. And
Hmm.
so you visualize it spinning the speed of light one direction and the speed of light the other direction. So everything it can't spin just one way; it spins both ways. So that's part of the visualization I will do when I'm doing more of a fast breath, or again just changing it up. But that's a very powerful energy visualization for me.
Okay. Wow. I've heard a little bit about our magnetic field, and it's exciting to think about without saying a word, without really interacting with somebody at all, that my magnetic field could affect their magnetic field. And is that something you're talking about? And what, yeah, tell me more about that because I haven't really heard much about that.
So when I expand my visualizations out a little bit more, I will visualize the energy field from my wife Jessica and from Khaleesi. So I visualize them having a similar energy field that's spinning. And what I do is I will then, in my visualization, make sure that theirs is spinning at the same rate as mine. I try to make them as bright as possible. Some may be brighter than mine, less just depends on, time of day, mood, blah, blah, blah. But I can actually, make them spin at the same rate. And that
Hmm.
took a while to do that. That wasn't something that happened right away, but that was very key and very important for me spiritually on how I interact with. I mean, that's what I do at night. When we go to bed at night, I go to sleep at night. I visualize my energy, I visualize theirs, I visualize mine spinning, theirs spinning, and ours spinning at the same rate. Also, taking it a little bit further. So, since we're going down this
Yeah. Take it all the way
spirituality,
down.
take it all the way down. So also part of my energy practice or meditation practice, one that I like to do at night, again, you're kind of laying there, is I will feel gravity. And at night, when you're laying there, gravity is taking you straight down. When you're standing up, depending on how you move, it moves a little, but you're laying in one spot, the Earth's gravity is pulling you straight down. Another interesting part of that, when you get to about 2 or 3 in the morning, there's also the gravity from the sun that's pulling you straight down. So during the day, for example, like right now, there is a contradiction. You have gravity from the earth pulling you straight down and the sun pulling up. And it's a very subtle difference. I can't say I can specifically describe it if, to tell you exactly where the sun is, but it's a practice I've been working on for the past few years of okay, I know what gravity feels like from the earth. I'm trying to feel where the sun is. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now, and it's cool at night. I'm like, all right, about 2, 3 in the morning. Now I'm feeling from both the earth and the sun at the same time. But, kind of taking it a little bit further in terms of expanding outside of me, which was that was a big part of it. Was initially I focused a lot of just me and my energy and how my energy worked, and over the past few years I've started expanding out to try to see and understand the other energies that are out.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I appreciate you sharing that with me. I never even thought about it, but once you said it, it just kind of clicked. That if the sun's up, I'm up. And I feel like I have to get up. It feels like something's pulling me up, like onto my feet and moving, right? As opposed to and I keep track of my sleep through my watch every night. It'd be interesting. And it's funny that I used to wake up almost every night at 3 o'clock, and there's somewhat, religious, kind of a dark, malevolent kind of that's Satan's hour at 3 o'clock, from horror movies I've seen or whatever. But And that makes more sense is that you're feeling the full pull of gravity, you know, in bed, asleep, because it's on the other side of the earth, right? Obviously, right? Pulling through space. But yeah, that's interesting because I can't tell you how many times I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, I'm taking a day off. I'm playing some video games, sitting in my recliner, and I'm just like, no, I don't feel like doing this. I feel like getting up, even if it's just to go outside and walk. You know, most of the time is doing something productive. But I feel that pull, that kind of upward pull. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So I love how you're just like kind of, in my words, kind of expanding your awareness. Right? Like kind of blocking out the normal things that we all notice, like, oh, I'm a little tense right now, or or I feel tired, or whatever or stressed, or whatever. And you're like, well, I don't want to know. I want to be between those thoughts because I want to listen to other things outside of my body. I want to notice things, which you could see. I mean, I can instantly see how beneficial it would be that all your planning, all your business, all your meetings, all your appointments, obviously we never meet anybody for an appointment at 03, right? I'd be like, man, I don't even feel like talking to you right now. I just feel heavy, right? But yeah, so it'd be interesting to see how that factors. I have all the data, right? I'm already tracking my sleep on my watch and my heartbeat during the day, and all the data is kind of coming in. My watch, my phone keep track of it, but it'd be interesting to look at it through that lens. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah,
I
interesting.
have another lens that's probably the most esoteric out of everything I've described so far, if you're interested in going down that rabbit hole.
What's the topic again?
Same topic of meditation and kind of understanding you and focusing on you and who you are and how you interact or manipulate or control or be part of reality. So this was one that I've focused on for the past few, probably 3 years, maybe 4 years. So it's a newer meditation that I've been doing. And the goal is to understand the esoteric concepts and topics with real world things. So, for example, I want to know how bright is your light? And you can say, oh, it's really bright. It's the brightest thing. Well, I can tell you that my light is at least as bright as the sun. So that's something that you can say, okay, you can look up, glance at it for a second and say, that's pretty bright. So I'm trying to now, when I visualize my light inside of me shining, I visualize the sun. Now, and that's a very common topic, concept in terms of visualization. So to take it a little bit deeper, I visualize that the sun is just a mirror. So the sun in our sky, I visualize it as a mirror. And it's a flashlight that's coming from me that reflects from the sun back to the earth. So that's been one of the latest visualizations that I've been doing and meditation that I've been doing. And so when I look at everything, I see it as a reflection of me.
Okay.
It's
Sense.
pretty
I
deep.
mean, it's deep. Yeah, it's good. It's good deep. I mean, I think of, the light that people have or don't have. And I think of people like that I naturally feel drawn to, and which is very few, and the people that I just don't even would never know or run into because I naturally repel those kind of people. And I think of, it has to do with, and I love the visualization that you're doing, but it more putting it on and trying it on for a second. Let me try on your clothes for a second. And I've been wondering, I thought it was like my electromagnetic energy. It's like a magnet. It repels some people, it attracts others. And I think the light is just, to me, in my understanding, is just another way of seeing that, right? Because there's so many people, like other people, they see drug dealers all the time, or maybe they don't interact with them, but they notice them, or, I don't know, criminals or whatever. And I've talked about this in previous podcasts, but or maybe just on the phone. I don't know, but that they showed people in a penitentiary who are officially criminals. They're They're there for a long time, and they show them this video of people walking like in New York City, and they have them point out the people that they would go after, and then they have them point out the people that they would stay away from. And they noticed, different. I mean, it could be as simple as the light or the magnetism, but the words that the people noticing, the predators, so to speak, noticed, when they looked at those people, the scientists or the doctors or psychologists or whatever, looked at those people, and the people that were easy prey, like walk with their heads down, like didn't swing their arms very much, or they were on their phone and they weren't even engaged with their environment. And the people they would never mess with were the people that were paying attention, alert, present, and focused. And those, I could easily put those on to how bright is your light? What do you think?
I mean, it's a different explanation, I guess. I don't know if I totally get it. Maybe I need to see a little bit more of that episode that you're talking about. I mean, I understand people being present and not present, and with social media devices, it's really easy to not be present.
Right.
So I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know about that one.
Well, good. Well, good. You're throwing all these new concepts at me. I'm glad I could throw something. I didn't even try to, but I think there's a correlation there, but you're right. I don't know enough about it, but that's good. We can just talk about stuff like that. But I
Yeah.
really
So what
appreciate. Go ahead.
was on that, kind of just down a different road on the same topic. What I like to do when I meet new people is the concept of putting light in their head. So again, one of the other concepts that I learned way back when, I don't remember one of the books I read it from, was that when you meet somebody, there's no light inside their head. You have a brain, blah, blah, blah. But in the middle of all that, I want to visualize a really bright light that's inside of their head.
Hmm.
So really simple, and that's it. I'm meeting someone new for the first time, and when I do that, I have a smile on my face. So I'm sure that helps, at least from that standpoint. You're meeting someone for the first time, it's very nice to have the person has a smile on their face versus a scowl or just kind of whatever. So I think that helps
Yeah.
in terms. And again, I visualize that, and this is how I reflect, me doing that for someone or to someone, at least from my aspect. And that's helped in meeting people. I mean, I'm an introvert. I grew up an introvert. I mean, I'm the one that, it's going to sit in the corner at a party or, not necessarily go and talk to a bunch of people. So it's not natural for me to go up and say hi and have a conversation with somebody. So I mean, this is something that's helped me a lot, at least in that area of, going and having a conversation with somebody. And that opens up you have a smile and then they start talking. And then you have other things that you can talk to them about or ask questions about. And so that's been my format for meeting people for the first time, or new
Hmm.
people.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think I like that. Yeah. Well, we're getting close to an hour here, and it's just been so much fun that we lose track of time.
No, this has been awesome, man. Super fun. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for sharing where you're at with listening and thinking and visualization and breathing. Uh, it's so refreshing to me. Thank you.
Oh, well, thanks for listening, man. I mean, as you know me over the years, I can talk about this stuff all day long and even more. I mean, we just barely covered the esoteric stuff that I've, practiced and checked out.
Well, it sounds like we might have a future podcast or a few together then, because yeah,
Oh, definitely. I'd love to come on and chat with you again. There's plenty more topics.
awesome. Well, thanks so much, and we're gonna say bye.
All right. Bye, Aaron.
Bye, bye, Nizam.